Hello and welcome to the Curiosity and Consciousness podcast. The intention of this podcast is to open your mind, get curious about yourself and connect to the power you hold within. I am your host, Karen Maloney, an inside-out coach, helping you to believe in yourself and manifest your desires. Check out the podcast, available on all platforms, and go to my website, www.karenmaloney.com for all info. Hello everybody. It's me, Karen Maloney, and thanks for tuning in for another episode. I'm delighted to have you join again this week. And this week is going to be another solo cast with myself, sharing on a topic that I think anyway is really important when it comes to ourselves, our life, what we desire, what we wish to manifest. And if we don't look at this aspect of ourselves, we can ultimately just block what we truly desire. So that's what today's conversation is going to be about. But before that, just a reminder that I am available for one-to-one coaching and silent counselling sessions, and I'm back in Mayo. I'm back in Ireland for the next couple of weeks, so any of these sessions or Reiki can be done in person if anyone wants an in-person session and is in Mayo or the west of Ireland. Pop me an email, support@karenmaloney.com, and we can arrange it. I look forward to hearing from you. So then what I wanted to talk about today is this idea, and it's based off the book Psycho-Cybernetics, which is from the 60s, and it was written by Maxwell Maltz, Maltz, and it's often cited as one of the best self-help books ever. And he talks about self-image psychology and how to use the power of self-image psychology for success. And he was a plastic surgeon, and he noticed with some people, no matter how much surgery they did or changes they made and how physically different they may look on the outside or would look on the outside after surgery, it still didn't change things. They still weren't happy, or they still didn't see themselves as beautiful or sexy or whatever their aim was in the first place. So he postulated that we have two images, all of us. And we have the image that we see in the mirror, and we also have another inner self-image. And it's the inner self-image that we hold about ourselves that drives everything about our life. And that's why he could see all these people do all this surgery and still not see themselves as pretty or beautiful or sexy or whatever the case was, because it had nothing to do with the image they were looking at in the mirror. It was their inner self-image and how they were perceiving, seeing and viewing themselves internally that was creating the image externally. And that's it essentially. That's what it comes down to in every way, shape or form, whether it's our image of ourselves or the internal talk that we say to ourselves all the time is what drives our life. And that's why I call myself an inside-out coach as well, because we can keep changing the externals, but if we don't fundamentally change how we view ourselves, how we see ourselves, the things we think about ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, what we believe about ourselves, which is all that inner goings on. It's the inner self-image, it's the inner self-concept, it's the inner conversations, as Neville Goddard talks about them, the inner conversations that we have about ourselves that determines everything. Because again, we all have an outer character as well, or masks. And I don't mean that in any kind of negative sense, because half the time we're not conscious of how disconnected we are from ourselves, or how afraid or unworthy we feel to be ourselves. So we play different roles in different scenarios in order to meet needs. Like I always say as well with clients, no matter what we do, no matter how quote unquote bad it may be, we're all just humans meeting needs. And sometimes we haven't either been taught or learnt the best way to meet our needs. So everyone's just meeting needs. But we often do this to the detriment of our own well-being, mentally, physically, emotional, and spiritual well-being. So again, it's this inner self-image that's really driving ourselves. And another teacher I've mentioned before, Neville Goddard, he talks about these inner conversations. And he talks about how talking to oneself or yourself, we all talk to each other. It's a habit everyone indulges in. We all have an inner voice and we can't stop that inner voice, and our brains naturally think. So it's not about stopping or thinking or our thoughts, but it's about being the conscious controller of them and learning to manage our awareness. And we are directing and consciously choosing and being intentional with our inner conversations. And that's our power. That's our power always. And when we change those on the inside, it must follow that things change on the outside as well. And again, Neville Goddard talks about these inner conversations and how everything is a manifestation of the mental conversations that we have going on within us day in, day out. So that's why without changing our inner talk and our inner self-image and our inner goings on and our inner beliefs and our inner perceptions of ourselves and our inner concept of ourselves, without changing those, we won't witness any changes on the outside. Or no, that's not true either, because yes, we can change certain circumstances, but they won't be long lasting. They won't give us the inner feeling that we're looking for, because that's all us on us, and that all comes from us, and it's not actually conditional on anything outside of us. But again, we haven't been taught that. I'm jumping from like Psycho-Cybernetics, Neville Goddard, and A Course in Miracles, but you know, the truth of any religion or any of these texts, they all essentially say the same thing, that the power is in us. It's all us. So I'm flipping from one to the next. But in A Course in Miracles as well, it talks about how the ego says when X changes or this happens or I get this or this works out this way or whatever the case may be, when this happens, I will be happy. That's what the ego says. And again, that's external focused living. It's things outside of us determining when I will be happy. Whereas the spirit says, I will be happy and then things outside of me will change. I decide now to be happy and things will change. So that's the difference, and that's the rewiring we all come to. And especially anyone who has gone through an awakening, a spiritual awakening, you become more connected to this inner way of thinking, of choosing, of living, of perceiving yourself, and like that, choosing to be happy, calm, joyful, peaceful, loving, no matter what. You choose it because it's a choice available to you, and you don't wait and make it dependent on things outside of you. Because again, if you're waiting for that, you can be waiting a lifetime. And then if something does happen, it can be fleeting because things change all the time. So the only way to that true, long-lasting happiness, joy, peace, ease, whatever it is from the inside out, is changing, controlling that inner speech, inner images, inner thoughts, inner self-belief. And like that, once we change that, the outer has to align. And sometimes, yes, that means major changes. But also not necessarily, because what changes is your perception more than anything, and is the way you view yourself and see yourself in any situation, and is the meaning that you create in any situation. That's what changes. So again, yes, often things can change, but again, things can often remain exactly the same. But how you interpret them, how you view them, how you see them, how you experience them, all changes, because you have changed fundamentally inside in how you view, how you think, how you feel about yourself, because that is the image that is projecting on everything. So that was just what I felt like sharing this week, because I just think it's so important, and it's another way of saying, looking at and speaking about the same thing, how change has to start from the inside. All the power lies within us. We are what we are looking for. We have all the answers within. All these truths that we have heard already before, but again, we can know them intellectually, but actually living them and experiencing them, that's the work. Feeling the internal shift is the work. It's not enough to just understand them intellectually. And I just love the way that in this book, Psycho-Cybernetics, he writes about this aspect as well, and this inner self-image, and really that inner self-image, which actually Neville Goddard calls self-concept, is what drives our life. Period. Full stop. It is what drives our life. So when we change this, life around us changes. And again, it changes because our perception and the way we are experiencing everything and how we are interpreting things and the meaning that we're creating of things changes because we've changed our inside. And again, it comes back to this idea of using our imagination, dreaming a new dream for yourself, saying mantras and affirmations, affirming what you do want as opposed to keep talking about the problems. And again, it's not about denial. Feel the emotion that's coming up, but then change your focus, change your language, change your thinking, change your beliefs, because that's what brings about a new reality as well. So it's using your imagination, and then it's having faith. You have to have total and utter faith in the unseen, faith in who you want to be, and just keep going. Just keep going. Persist, 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 persist. Persist in the inner conversations. Make them good. Because, when you really think about it as well, we live with ourselves 24/7. This internal goings on. We're the only one who can hear our internal voice. Nobody else can hear it for us. So we can say whatever we want to anyone outside of us, and we can pretend all is okay. And, I was definitely a person who had a really good outer game going on. I think people would have thought I had it all together. Nothing ever fazed me. I was super confident. And that was not the truth of it at all. I felt so shy. I was really embarrassed and full of shame. And I was terrified to speak up for myself or honor my emotions or even express my emotions. So I know what it's like as well. I'm not pretending like I have it all figured out or this is who I was my whole life and I always had a really good inner self-image. No, absolutely not. But I have been doing the work and I have changed it, and I have seen and felt and know and experienced how life ultimately shifts when we shift our inside, irrespective of what's going on in the outside. That's where our power is always. So if it's only me that can hear my internal voice 24/7, 365 days a year, and it's only you who can hear your internal voice 24/7, 365 days a year, well, why would I want that voice to be so horrible, so negative, so criticizing, so tough on me? Why would I do that to myself? Because it's my power to change it. And again, this is the work in learning to direct our inner conversations, choosing our awareness, being intentional with our thoughts, with our focus, managing our awareness. And that is the work because, again, society has been set up to keep us so distracted from ourselves, to numb out in 1,000,001 different ways. So we don't have to feel, we don't have to wake up, we don't have to face ourselves. But again, as they say, we can't outrun ourselves. We have to face ourselves one time or another. As the Course in Miracles says as well, we are our own salvation. Nobody else can do it for us. So I invite you to just mull this over and again, become aware of your inner conversation. And do you enjoy it? Do you enjoy what you say to yourself 24/7? And it doesn't always have to be like, oh, you're such an asshole, you're so stupid, all these kind of things. But it's, what are you constantly saying to yourself? Even, are you constantly focusing on worry or fear? Again, like a previous episode, where is your emotional persona? Are you constantly thinking thoughts of, how am I going to pay this next bill? Where's my next paycheck coming from? Like whatever it is, your inner conversations create. So basically, it's as simple as, does your inner talk make you feel good? If not, change it. That's the simplicity of it. But again, I know from my own experience, to get to that comprehension of how simple it is took a lot of work and takes a lot of work and discipline still. Like, it's not something that I ever stop doing, because again, we're thinking beings. We don't stop thinking, but our power is always in choosing and managing and controlling our thoughts. And when we learn to do that, that's when things really shift. So I invite you to take a few moments, sit down, take out a journal and notice, how do you appear externally to your friends, to your family? What kind of things do you say? How would they describe you? As whether super organized, confident. Just take a few moments to notice your outer self and how she or he appears or acts and moves in the world, and how others would perceive him or her. And then take a few moments and do the same for your inner self-image. Then how do you truly feel about you inside? How does that differ to the exterior person that you play? What kind of things do you say to yourself inside, and how do you perceive this inner part of you? Again, just notice if there's a big difference and see, what can you do? Is there a step you can take that you can learn to honor that inner self more? So does she need to create some healthy boundaries? Does she need to speak up more? Does she need to express her emotions more? Does she need to say no more? Whatever it may be for you. Again, just lead with curiosity and see what comes up. Because like that, it's that inner self-image, those inner conversations, those inner, often hidden pieces that we hold about ourselves inside is what drives our life. And the more that we can look at them, work through them, the more we will free ourselves, and we can create and be and become who we do want to be, and actually have empowering and uplifting inner conversations that make us feel good no matter what is going on. So let me know if you do this. Let me know how you get on. And like that, if anyone wants to work one-to-one, feel free to reach out. support@KarenMaloney.com. That's support@KarenMaloney.com. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.